Bluey! Yes, that was we didn't practice that at all, and you wouldn't even have known.
You wouldn't have known, and there is a reason why we did 5 takes, didn't we, in the end?
Right,
Welcome
here we go.
to a very different episode of So You Want Your Kid to Be Great at Sport.
Yeah.
We are in season 2, and we have continued in great form. Last episode was all about environment and how crucial that is for kids and adults when it comes to sport. And this week, we are going to be talking about Bluey. Now, you got to wait. Kirk's just adjusting his Bluey doll.
Yes.
Apologies.
I was listening. I just
There
trying
is
to get Bluey on screen here. But
Bluey
yes,
is a big hit in both of our households, by the sounds of it.
yeah.
And we've spoke about Bluey a couple of times. Bluey is now staring at me from Kirk's microphone, which is fantastic because I love his little face. Her little face, actually.
Yeah, it's a
I
shame.
only found out that Bluey is a she a few weeks ago. But Bluey is a big hit in both of our houses. And it was just the other day that you mentioned that you've been watching Bluey with your kids. So we decided we'd do an episode of the podcast around Bluey because there are a lot of lessons and messages in Bluey if you watch it with the mindset that we're clearly watching it with. So what stood out to you, Kirk, in the episode that you were watching?
Great question. And this podcast is called So You Want Your Kid to Be Great at Sport. Stay with me. It's all relevant. Bluey is relevant. Teaches us lots of things about this. So I've talked a little bit about this on my Instagram. And there is one particular episode of Bluey that really stands out. But there are other episodes of Bluey that are really stand out in terms of physical literacy. And we know that physical literacy is so important for competence and confidence in sport. So this particular episode is when Bluey and Bingo are tidying their playroom. And they go from one side of the house to the other, taking one piece of one toy to the other side of the room, and they use different movement patterns, crazy movement patterns, but every one of them is different. Now, Bandit, who's the dad, is doing the vacuuming, and he notices this. He stops the vacuuming. He sits. And then his wife, Bandit, she noticed it too. So they just sit and they watch how different they move from one side to the other. And it's a bit crazy, and there's kind of chicken moves, and there's all kinds of different moves. But it really reminded me about when, for example, I go for a walk with my now 8-year-old and my now 11-year-old, because they still do this, is they won't just go for a walk. They will be quite inquisitive about their moves. If you look at them and you analyze what they're doing, they might skip, run, sidestep. They might go backwards a bit. They might do all these different types of movements. So why?
We like twirls on our walks with Amelia. She loves
Love
twirling.
it. Okay, yeah. So the question is, why do kids do that naturally? Because they do that naturally. And the answer is, well, that's how they learn. That's how they learn to be competent in movement, because they're naturally inquisitive about it. So when we play these sports, for example, that are really trying to pigeonhole them into doing certain things, and actually they just want to be free within their movement and expression of movement and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot to learn from that episode. So yes, Bluey, a lot to learn. So Ben, just a few of your thoughts, because I've got a challenge for you in a moment.
Oh no.
And it doesn't include singing, so you're all right.
Okay, yeah, I could take a challenge on. So you want my thoughts on that, or you've got a question to ask me first about it? You want my thoughts?
Just your thoughts on your experiences. Have you seen the episode? Did it resonate for you?
Yeah, I have seen the episode, and as you said, there's a lot of episodes within the Bluey series programs that are very similar, and they focus on this message of letting kids explore and letting them explore their own movements. And the particular thing is the imagination aspect of it for
Mm.
me. I think it's not just necessarily the movements. Yes, there are lots of different movements, but on my part of it, it's when um, Bluey is and the other friends in Bluey are doing different things. There's always like a little game that they're playing, and often than not, they've come up with this game themselves, and that's what children do. So when you see, you go on a walk with your boys, and maybe they're jumping, they're climbing on walls, they're hopping, they're doing whatever they're doing, in their mind, they're probably playing some kind of game, and maybe they've created a game that they play on every single walk to make that game more fun. You might not know what that game is, but they're playing it because they don't want to go on a boring walk in nature to them. They want to be playing this particular game that they may have created. And I think this is so important. Children need to be able to explore different movements, but use their imagination to make what they're doing fun. There's an episode of Bluey that stands out to me when we spoke about this. It's the episode. It's called Shadowlands, um,
Yeah,
and they're basically in the park, Bluey and friends,
I
and
love this one.
the sun is shining, and their mums and dads are sitting on a picnic blanket, and they basically come up with this idea that they need to get from one side of the park to the picnic blanket, but they're not allowed to walk on the sun part. They have to walk on the shadows,
Mm.
hence Shadowland. And the imagination aspect is if they don't step on a shadow, then they're going to get eaten by a crocodile. So what they're doing is they're finding bits of shadow to get from one place to the other to get to the picnic blanket. And it's great because they're using the shadows of trees and all sorts. And there's a really key part in it where they're moving along, and the shadow that they're using is created by a car or a bus or something, and it drives off. And then all of a sudden they're like, "No, you're gonna get eaten by a crocodile." And they're thinking and they're working together as a team and helping each other. Like, there's a bit of shadow coming, and all of a sudden another bus comes and they point it out and they're like helping each other.
Mm.
So there's things like exploring movement, there's imagination, there's teamwork, there's all that that comes from these episodes of Bluey. Probably went on off a bit of a tangent, but it is so good for watching your children and how they inquisitively move around. They don't just go from one side of the park to the picnic blanket. They don't just tidy the playroom. It's all a game.
Yes, and that's what we're talking about today. So yes, Bluey, but also the real thing behind this is movement patterns, different patterns of movement, which you really need to encourage with your kids if you want them to excel in sports, enjoy sports, be competent and confident in sports. Okay, so here's the challenge. So I've never seen a podcast do this before, so this could be a first. So the challenge is we've got 30 seconds and you've got to do as many different movement patterns as you can from one side of your room to the other. So one side of the camera here to the other. So for those who are listening on your on the podcast, not watching, you've also got to say the movement pattern. So if there's a new one you created, just say the
All right.
chicken or the crab or whatever. It could be just sidestep. It could be run. I've given them away.
Oh,
But yeah.
I
So
made notes on that. And if you are not watching the podcast and you are just listening on Spotify or Apple or other players, then you can head to YouTube and you will be able to watch this happening. And we will obviously put clips on socials. But you're going first, right?
no, we're gonna do it together.
At the same time.
Yeah, same time. Are you ready?
But I'll just copy you.
No, because you won't. I'll be so quick. I mean, if
No, I think you get 30 seconds. I get 30 seconds. I want to watch what you're doing.
okay. You gonna time me?
I'll time you. 30 seconds.
All right. Are you ready? Are you ready, Bluey? Here we go. Are you ready?
Hang on. Timer. 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And we are 3, 2, 1, go.
Sidestep. Running forwards. Backwards. Crossing.
Bluey!
Karaoke. Cha-cha-cha.
What was that one called?
Karaoke, that one. High knees.
Is that 5?
Crawl, back crawl.
It's crawling along the floor. That's 6.
Jumping. Hopping.
2, 1, up.
What's that? Grabbing.
No, that was after the 30
I want my
seconds.
chicken.
I was hoping you'd do the chicken sooner. You had 35 set. You see, he can't stop. He's having so much fun.
Give me a high five, Bluey.
That was impressive. To be
Thank you.
fair. How many did you get? 7?
Yeah, I can't call the chicken and the crabby the last ones. Mine were a little bit boring. It was typical kind of a strength and conditioning coach warm up.
You're more out of breath than I thought you'd be.
Yeah.
Your
Aren't
office
you
is bigger
ready?
than mine, though. Your office is bigger than mine. I went out for a run this morning. I did a 45-minute run and a track session last night, so I'm a bit stiff.
You don't need to give us excuses already.
Right then. Ready?
Yeah. 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm going to steal your crab. I've got your crab. I'm going to do a backwards crab. I'm going backwards this way, so I'm doing I've got cramp. Hang on. And then I'm doing the starfish.
Love it.
Here we go. And then I'm not going to call it fast run. I'm going to call it a marlin because it's the fastest fish in the ocean.
Wow.
What else can we do? I could do the kangaroo.
You
Goes
got
like this.
10 seconds.
And then I could do hopping. I could do sideways hopping. And I'll get a chicken out. And an eagle. What
Stop.
else could I do? Shark.
Stop.
And a whale.
Stop.
I've just realised someone's watching me from the window out there.
How many did you get? No, wait. How many did I get? Do you remember?
You got 7.
So I know how many you got. You got 6. Well done, Ben. Not quite as good as me.
That's a fix. It's like when we were playing American football at the weekend, and there was a close decision about who got the point. And the way that you solved it was you held the ball behind your back and picked one of your team to see which ball the hand the ball was in. Not fair, but anyway, I enjoyed that.
Okay, so here's the thing. I used to work in elite tennis as a strength and conditioning coach pre-mini athletics. And when I used to, initially in my career, I used to work with juniors. Then I worked my way up and used to work with the seniors. So very good, all good, juniors and senior players. Very elite. Okay. So when I was working with the juniors and even when I was working with the seniors, some people bring their kids to have sessions with me on court and stuff. And part of my job was to improve their movement on court. Okay. And there's a few things going on here I want to talk about. First and foremost, I could always tell which kids had played more sports than others. Let's put it that way, at an early age.
More different sports.
Yes, different sports. I could also tell which kids had specialized in tennis super early. And when I mean by specialized, it's the only sport they played, and it was super early. I could tell that by the way they were moving. There were limitations to their movement, and that was very, very key for me when I was doing that job. Is if they didn't have the tools when they were sort of 18, 19, 20 to move in certain directions and all that kind of stuff and it to be natural, it was tricky. It was tricky to work with them to get to that point. Right? And the best movers in the look at Roger Federer, one of my favorite tennis players, moved like a ballet dancer. So smooth, so natural. Had he been taught that? Probably not. Because he built that. It's just free. He's free in his movement. So, and one of the questions I would ask, especially the kids, was, okay, what are the different movement patterns you use on the tennis court? So I know you're not a tennis player, Ben, right? But let's see if you can name the different types of patterns on a tennis court. I'll give you a clue. One of them is running forwards, right? So what other different types of patterns of movement are there on the tennis court?
So you'll have to forgive me because I probably won't do the technical terms for this. Certainly not. But I'm thinking about me watching tennis, the first thing that springs to mind is not necessarily sidestepping, but
No, no,
you're going,
it's another one. Right. So that's
all right,
2. Running forward,
so
sidestepping.
sidestepping, because I'm thinking the movements along, is it the baseline? There's running forwards, there's diagonal running, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and by
Uh,
diagonal, sometimes you might use a crossover step where
cross
your legs
steps.
cross over one another. So it's a crossover. It's very good, Ben.
Yeah. I'm thinking, your opponent might have done a little drop shot over the net, so you're running maybe bent over to
Still running, right? We're
still
simplifying.
running.
And this is the key, simplifying the movement. Still running, right? So that's but it's good. It's a different type of environment, but essentially it's still running forwards, right? So that's
Jumping.
great. Yeah, jumping's another pattern. Yeah. Yeah, jumping for sure.
Um, I'm saying backwards running.
Brilliant.
I'm saying, yeah, I'd say backwards running. There's, I want to say you've talked about crossing over legs, forwards, backwards, sideways. Um, yeah, I'd struggle after that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so to be honest, there's not many more. So you've got running forwards, running backwards. You've got crossover, cross behind. There's a called a split step. So it's almost like a where you're pushing off of one leg on the other. There's
Mm.
jumping. There's not that many more, right? So some of the mistakes that kids make in tennis very early on is only play tennis. So you're only really using those 5, 6 movements in tennis. Yeah. Let's go again. If you played a different sport like um, hmm, I don't know. What other sports can you think of right now? Let's use something we're not. Let's use let me think. All right, let's use a martial art for example. Think about
Okay.
the movements that take place in a martial arts.
I would say sidestepping to some degree. I think
Yeah,
if you look when I think martial arts, I'm thinking, your typical like MMA where it combines all of like the martial arts. So they're moving around the octagon, the cage, the ring, whatever.
yeah,
So there's sidestepping. I would say there's moving forwards, moving backwards.
yeah.
There's moving forward probably like on a bit of a defensive. So like maybe moving forwards in like a sidestep, which is different to normal sidestep, maybe leading with a particular foot.
Before we get there,
Yeah.
what's the initial position of the body when they're waiting?
Oh,
What do they do?
crouched,
Yeah, so they're getting lower
crouched. Yeah,
and wider and all these different things that they learn from that kind of sport. Because when you're I've never been in a fight, but I don't like martial arts or in terms of doing it. But I would imagine if the first thing you're going to do is get low because you're going
get
to need to
low,
be
yeah.
agile to move in different directions.
Poised like a sprung coil, ready
Yeah.
to go.
And these relevant movement patterns, so that's one you might pick up from martial art. And guess what? So relevant in tennis. You put someone that's that's done martial arts for a while, and they're so used to getting low, and because they need to be quick to move out the way or whatever. That's so relevant on the tennis court. So rather than just getting a kid to hit balls on a tennis court, let's teach them how to move first. Let's get them in the so there's so many different types of movements that go on in different sports that we then learn to put into other sports. And this goes back to the Bluey episode. There's so many different types of movements that kids learn at such an early age just by being a kid, that we have to really explore that with them and do those games with them, like the Shadowlands one, or even Keepy Uppy. Yeah, Keepy Uppy. Sing Keepy Uppy?
Keepy Uppy is a fantastic episode of Bluey. The thing I like about Keepy Uppy actually is it reminds me again a lot of mini athletics. Is the Keepy Uppy starts in Bluey like very playful. Um, you know, the obvious, keeping the balloon up. There's not many things that get in the way. And then all of a sudden, I think what is apparent is dad becomes aware that Keepy Uppy is going on.
Yeah.
And two things. One, realizes that they're enjoying it and wants the game to be prolonged for their enjoyment. And two, I think he realizes that they are not challenged enough by it. and taking
Ah,
it back to a mini athletics session, he does the add-ins. So at a mini athletics session, we'll do the game and then we'll do the add-ins. So when we do like one of our games, we'll
yeah,
do running forwards, shark attack, the game. If you've been to a mini athletics class, you'll know about. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? But then you would add the game add-in, which is the crab movement. In
yeah,
this Bluey episode of Keepy Uppy, very simple. What he starts to do is he starts to put on things like the electric fan, the air conditioning ceiling fan. I think at one point he gets like the leaf blower out or something because he
yeah,
starts moving the balloon around so that they have to do things like backward running, jumps, side steps, and really gets them thinking. Um, and that's the key thing, isn't it? Like if you become efficient at something, to challenge yourself to become better, you probably have to start thinking about different movement patterns.
yeah.
So that Keep You Uppy is a great episode.
So, um, I'm go we're gonna finish this podcast now, this episode, and I'm gonna ask you one last question, Ben. Um, do you what is your if what's your advice to parents to encourage, or do you have a go-to game other than Keep Me Uppy? Because that's such a great one. A go-to game to encourage them to move in multiple different directions and have super fun and imagination. Do you have a go-to game that they could play at home today?
So me and my girls at home, we have developed our own kind of version of another well-known program called Floor is Lava.
Yes, we like it.
So what we tend to do is we, as a family, because it's something that we all get involved in, is we kind of create these little obstacle courses around the house, and you don't need a lot of equipment. We've got kind of little bits lying around. Obviously, owning a mini athletics business, we've got bits and bobs of stuff, but you
Yeah,
know, we're talking things like little balance beams that they've got from toy shops and stepping stones that light up. But you can use simple things like cushions. You can use things like tea towels. You can use things like, anything really that creates like a little bit of a platform or a target. And we tend to do this where we'll go round the room. So we'll set it up in one room and all four of us will basically move around the room and we're trying to get each other, but you're not allowed on the same thing. So you're not allowed on the same cushion, but you have to try and basically play tag. So a little bit like Floor is Lava, you're not allowed to fall off an obstacle. So you're not allowed to be stood on the actual carpet, but you have to be stood on something and you have to play tag. So it's kind of like seeing who can catch each other and who can fall off at the same time. And there's lots of different movement patterns that come from it. There's running, there's jumping, there's backstepping. You have to be quite agile. Some of the platforms are a bit bigger, some of them are a bit like more wobbly than others. So you're working on a bit more balance, that getting low thing if you're on something that's a bit
yeah.
wobblier. So it's great because we do that and it fills time. The kids love it, we love it, and it's something that you do together as a family. But it's teaching them all those different movement patterns that can be applied to different sports.
Fantastic, Ben. Thank you as ever. Great episode with Bluey as an inspiration.
Bluey is an inspiration. I think it's something that we can, as parents and as coaches, take a lot from. When you said to me that we'd do an episode on Bluey, I was a little bit unsure, shall I say, as to how the episode would go. But I think it is very key because if you put it into a physical literacy context that we speak so often about on the podcast, the key things are that children should be exploring movements, they should be engaged, they should be very much aware of what they're doing and challenged, and that's key to allowing them to continue with their sport. So suggest more episodes about different things because I enjoyed this one. If you're enjoying the podcast, then obviously you can subscribe to YouTube and you can watch the video of us doing our challenge and you can be notified of any other episodes that come out. This is season 2 of So You Want Your Kids to Be Great at Sport. Kirk, final words to you.
I was going to do a singing end to it, but I don't think we will. We'll save that for another day.
Save it for another day and we'll see you all later.
Thanks, Ben.